Welcome back to Games Revealed. I'm James and also The Brink, and today I'm going to be doing a new segment that I want to start doing when I play new games, and that is judging them by their cover or their intro. In their first hour, it's interesting to see what kind of opinion you can have of a game as opposed to the last hour. I'm going to be covering the first hour in this segment, and the first game that is up for grabs is Dying Light 2. I've been so excited for this, so excited, because I love Dying Light 1. It is one of those games that I just came out of nowhere. And I'm a big zombie fan, if you can't tell. I have a hat. And so I'm super excited to talk about this one today. Even though it's not like the best zombie game I've played, it definitely is worth continuing for some people. Okay, so before we get into it, make sure to like, subscribe, bash that bell with your crowbar or your modified machete, depending on your choice and preferences. So let's get into it. So with this, the first hour does feel like a long intro. Some games, they'll wrap up the very beginning portion to where you get into, like, let's say an open world game fairly quickly. Sometimes not. Open world games are kind of like that. They're either really long intros, really not. So, but with the beginning of this one, you're brought into the world 15 years after the fall of, I'm assuming, mankind. I don't remember Dying Light 2's ending very well. The story on that wasn't the main reason I played that game. It was the combat. And the DLC for Dying Light 1 was better, in my opinion, than the original game. And we'll see with this game, with the DLC, will be like. So you find yourself playing as Aiden. He jumps across essentially a bridge that's out, and he has to climb up a broken portion of the road, right? Up, and then he meets the person that actually is interesting, because Aiden's not. He's like a board. He's not very interesting. I apologize to anyone that might like him. He is not. He's dull. He's not interesting. But Spike, he's interesting. I like Spike. They meet up. Spike had tracked someone down, or at least gotten information for Aiden. And you proceed to go through a very obvious tutorial of raiding, or, essentially looting a mansion, and everyone's died in it. It's obviously like poison or something like that. Like, they're just all dead, sitting at this probably last dinner they were gonna have, as they're like, okay, this world's done with, let's just be done with it, peace out. I didn't pay attention to the story as much as I should have right here, but it was kind of boring in a lot of ways. The environment was fascinating, but they had you looting, and they just don't have a lot to loot in that section right there, and so it was boring for me. But it was interesting when you sit down with Spike, and as he proceeds to tell you the information he has about Mia, his Aiden's sister. He split like a beer or a soda or something like that, and I proceed to think, wouldn't all these people dead at the table, like with meals around them, wouldn't that make it so you don't want to touch anything in this area that's food related? So maybe they, maybe it's the old Kool-Aid, poisoned by the Kool-Aid, right? Trick, but I wouldn't be touching that stuff. That's the first thing I thought of in that area. Then you move on from that area after finding out, hey, I need to talk to this informant, and you're giving a direction of, hey, look, there's a radio tower over there. There's going to be a radio there that you can contact the informant, who can then give you the information about your sister. So you part ways with Spike. Spike's awesome. You get to be back to yourself, boring old self. And luckily they fixed that, because the environment starts to open up and be really beautiful. Even at the mansion, it was beautiful. It was vast, open. It had, the hills with trees and eyes. The hills have eyes. You go into this next area, you dive into the water. You can go a different route if you want. And that's definitely one thing that's apparent in the first hour, is that there's multiple ways to get somewhere. I like the choice, but they didn't do it in such a way to where it really felt like it was really worth going one way or the other. Yes, in some parts, going one way avoided more zombies than others, but to be honest, in the beginning, you don't have to worry about the zombies. You can walk by them, and that's another thing. The zombies, if I can give you a hint, don't kill a lot of zombies in the beginning. You're just going to waste durability on your melee weapon, and I pretty much almost ran out of all my weapons early on, because I just liked killing things, and I realized that, hey, there's a bunch more zombies. I shouldn't be killing these. So I stopped and was barely able, like after the first hour, right after that, there's some like human enemies you have to fight, and it made it much more difficult with my durability pretty much almost gone on like 2 weapons. So be careful for that reason alone. But you do get into, so after like the water area, you climb up through a bus, and then you get into another area with just vast, it's a cliff with a vast array, like open area where you can see just out into the trees and another point of view of how beautiful the environment is. Then you have to climb up this cliffside, and there's like ladders, you know, rebar, almost rebar like ladders put into the hillside, which is bizarre that this would even be a thing. But once again, I gotta remember, it's a video game. I forget that sometimes. It's a video game. So stop thinking about it, because it maybe is a real thing in real life that people do. It just seems like there was another way to get to this place on the mountain, or this hill where the radio tower is. It seemed like there's another way to get there. So it was kind of pointless in my eyes, but it was fun parkouring. And this is where this is like Dying Light. That is parkour, hardcore parkour. Thank you, Office. Loved the parkour in this game. And it's just like parkouring in the first one. I love it. I love bashing zombies in the head with the melee weapon and parkouring over them. Now, they do have some tutorial stuff later on that I didn't. Sometimes it gets a little complicated. Sometimes it's just fun to bash zombies, not get too parkoury about it. But as you climb up the hill, you got to do various different things. That's just part of parkouring, right? Jumping across areas with just thin boards. And then you finally get to the part where you get to fight zombies. And they have some special zombie that comes out. And the special zombie actually wasn't that difficult. You just need to learn to dodge, right? When they're like jumping at you, you dodge real quick. Not a big deal. But then they surround you with like 6 or 7, and that's what made it difficult. It was fun. I really had a lot of fun, and I'm really excited for more fights like that. So bring it on. Dying Light 2. Bring it on. Then you end up in a safe house. That's very similar to, well, it's the same as Dying Light 1. You have a safe house. You can go and change the day-night cycle in there, and you can also just swap out you have a storage area where you can store weapons and take them out. So you don't, as you gather stuff, you don't have to be so limited. With storage, you spend the night, you talk to the informant in the morning, you rush on out, and you get to experience a couple more areas, and you get to experience, like the outside of the city that you're going to be mainly playing in from the outside, right? So there's like a downed shuttle area, like tracks, tram, and that's where I wasted a ton of my durability on my melee weapons. Fighting zombies was in that area. It was so easy. And to be honest, if you just go left, I know if I'm ruining this for people, spoiler warning, a little too late, you go left, you avoid a lot of everything, just hanging left more or less at this part of the game. Then you get inside, and this is where it ends for me. After the first hour, I run into a volatile, I believe is what he called it, Aiden, and it bites you. You start to pass out. The informant grabs you, brings you in, and blacks out. And that's essentially the end of this first hour for me. And then it continues on to be like, I played it a little bit longer and it was awesome, but that's the first hour. I'm going to judge it by that. And this is my verdict, and I'll get into final thoughts at the very end. So zombies, parkour, open worlds. If you like any of those, if you don't mind them touching each other, then you're going to like this game. If you don't like any aspect of that, if you don't like open worlds, you're not going to like this. If you don't like zombies, you're probably not going to like this. If you don't like parkouring or jumping around and doing a lot of crazy stuff like that, you're probably not going to like this. But if you like all 3 of those, especially, and you can ignore the dull story so far, then you're going to love this game. I don't have a lot of hope that this story is going to be amazing. The trailer did show that it's going to have some interesting points to it, but it definitely is not feeling very interesting to me so far. And Dying Light 1 was not like the best story. They definitely need to work on their storytelling, and it's hard in an open world. So I understand that, but it does need work. But I'm not playing it for the story. I'm playing it for everything else. I love everything else about this game. The story is a little bit like, at least it's nice enough. It's not like spitting in my cake. I can still eat the cake. It's not gross story. It's just boring. And if you're too much of a story person, this might get in the way. And I love stories, but because I love zombies just as much, it kind of cancels each other out. And I can enjoy this game. That being said, my final thought is I'm going to continue playing this. I'm going to love it. I'm going to play put a lot of time into this. Probably not as much as Dying Light 1, where I almost 100%ed it, but I am going to play a ton of this game. I can already tell it's going to be a game that I go back and forth to just to, relax and kill some zombies. It's one of my favorite pastimes, apparently. And I recommend it for anyone, once again, anyone that's interested in that. Pick it up, or just really the first hour was intriguing enough for me to want to continue playing this. So just from playing the first hour, I recommend it to people that like zombie games that are an open world, if you can get past that story. That's it. That is it for this game. Go play it. Let me know if you like it. Let me know in the comments what you think about this game and the first hour. I'd love to know. Thank you guys so much. Check out our merch at gamesrevealed.com/merch. We're going to be getting more in the near future, and we're going to have a fun little game soon. So hopefully you're going to pay attention to this very ending and get that little hint and be prepared in the near future. Thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you guys next time. Later.